Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Rinks Around the League. This episode is brought to you by the Second String Leather Company, Ross Flats Vintage Apparel, and Arcadia Brewing here in Edmonton. For Ross Flats, head over to their website at rossflats.ca, enter the code RINKS20 at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your online purchase. So this is going to be another episode where I spotlight some amazing talent that I've came across while online. And I reached out to Trey Ashby in Nebraska and asked him to come on the show. And if you follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Treys Stadiums, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you've never heard of him, stay right there because he's coming up next. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Rinks Around the League. I'm your host, Jeff Nash, and today I have a very special guest. I have Trey Ashby, who is at Treys Stadiums on Twitter and Instagram. And man, this guy does some amazing stuff, and we'll get into that. But first, Trey, welcome to the show. How are things in Nebraska?
Oh, it's cold, but it can't be as cold as Edmonton.
Don't rub it in.
Well, actually, I guess it was 50 degrees today, so I shouldn't be complaining. So it's not even that cold.
Trey, welcome to the show. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, and I kind of want to give my viewers a sense of what you do, because what you do is pretty unique. You haven't done a lot of hockey rinks yet, but you've done some amazing work with other stadiums. So give the fans just a little snapshot of what you do exactly.
So I make model stadiums, but I make them out of paper, just paper. Every once in a while, I put lights in Madison Square Garden. Obviously, I had to cheat a little bit. You can't make lights out of paper, but it's my shtick. I try and figure out how to make a model stadium and how to make it look as realistic as possible, only using paper.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Like some of the cathedrals, like run some of the lists of some of the cathedrals that you've done, because some of them are just outstanding.
All right, let's see. I've done Angel Stadium, the Astrodome, Beaver Stadium, Candlestick Park, Cleveland Municipal Stadium, Dodger Stadium. I did Kauffman Stadium, but made it entirely out of baseball cards.
Oh, that's awesome.
Michigan Stadium. I've done Wrigley Field twice. I just finished the Seahawks Stadium, Lumen Field, Shea Stadium, Yankee Stadium, and then my local college stadium, Memorial Stadium. And like you said, it's all baseball and football stadiums, but that's not by choice. I've kind of gotten into the business of making these now, and it's kind of decided by what stadiums people order. But I would love to make hockey stadiums or hockey arenas, because I am a pretty big hockey fan. So starting my first one right now, just getting close to wrapping up. Madison is my first hockey rink that I've made.
Awesome. And we'll get to MSG in a second, because MSG is one of my personal favorite rinks. So you started off really with a bang there. Let's get into, you say your mandate is basically to do it all out of paper. So tell me about the different, obviously it's paper, but you do use different forms of paper. So what materials do you have in your arsenal?
So really, when I started making these, my first ones were out of cardboard, and then I started using construction paper, printer paper, and then it's just settled down. I almost always use 65-pound cardstock, which is in like 3 years ago. If you would have asked me what thickness, I wouldn't even know what 65-pound cardstock was. But like now, I have opinions on paper, and like different colors work differently for some reason. Probably the dye makes it more wavy or whatever. But yeah, just almost all 65-pound cardstock. Sometimes I'll use printer paper. But like I keep coming back to, it's all paper, and then I just stick to that challenge of no matter what I do, it has to be made out of paper.
You're kind of like Jim off The Office. Like, you never in your wildest dreams you would think you would know the specifics of paper.
That line where he's like, "What am I going to do with all this useful information?" I don't know the whole quote, but yeah, I'm a huge Office fan. I've been probably season 2 when it was like actually coming out every week. I'm like religious Office fan, so it's almost funny that I've made this whole second life revolving around around paper when I that's my favorite show that I've ever watched. So
That's that's awesome. So your materials are paper, but how on earth do you figure out how to structurally build these stadiums? What research goes into that?
So if you look long and hard enough online, you can almost always find blueprints of every major stadium and arena out there. Especially, I found one website that has every Major League Baseball stadium ever. So
Wow.
that's easy. If someone does a Major League Stadium, I go. It's called Clem's Ballpark Blog. I go there. He get that just outstanding information. But like I said, look long and hard enough, you can find the blueprints. And one of the most important things is finding like the side profile of the stadium. So like if you can cut out like a
Right.
piece of pie, and then I end up with something like this, which is
Oh, okay.
the side profiles from should have looked Shea Stadium. Um, but once you get that, and then you can build everything on it. So really, it's kind of I stand all these up with binder clips, just like this, and you put enough glue, they stand up pretty straight, and then you build everything on top of the profiles.
So you basically follow the blueprints. You kind of build your skeleton, but I guess we should probably back up a little bit. It's not only just the outside that you build. It's not just an exterior, but you actually go inside. You do the bleachers, you do the ball, the playing field, everything. So you look for blueprints online for the structure of the building, but tell us a little bit about the decoration and the facades of the building and making it realistic.
Yeah, so I like always have a tab open for Google Earth. Right now it's just sitting on Madison Square Garden, and you can go all the way around Madison Square Garden, and then you can go in Madison Square Garden. You sent me that panorama that is just outstanding, just to look at every little angle. And a lot of times, what if I had to like boil down my talent, it comes down to just attention to detail. And it's being able to look at all these thousands of pictures and stuff that like the stuff you send me, Google Images and everything like that, and finding every last intricacy as far as like there's a single door there and a double door there, and it's this
Oh,
shade of blue and that one's that shade of gray, and it's being able to spot all that stuff and really just combing over thousands and thousands of different type of images. And that's what I have to end up doing with every project. And my biggest like fear, and it's kind of like motivates me to work hard, is that there's mean people on social media. So like if you miss something out of the 100,000 people that'll see it, some one person will notice, hey, you didn't put the giant exit sign. So it's almost
right.
like what motivates me to make sure I don't miss anything, because I know somebody will call me out if I don't miss it.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it speaks to, I guess, the passion of not only sports fans, but the almost emotional attachment from fans to the venues, because they know that building intimately, and they're able to make those kind of calls on details like that. So what's an example of like the craziest detail that you may have missed and a fan pointed out?
All right, so the biggest gaff that I have, the biggest thing I missed is I didn't include palm trees at Dodger Stadium, and that was like, oh, like that was like heartbreaking when, because I just toured Dodger Stadium a couple months before I built it, right? And it's probably one of my favorite major league stadiums. And there's a thing called they call them the three ladies, these three gigantic palm trees behind the bullpen. And somehow I did that whole project and didn't include one palm tree. So that was that was my great mistake. And that's probably the biggest one that sticks out to me, is that, and I always regret it, is I wish I could have Dodger Stadium back and put palm trees around it.
So when you do these, I guess we should go back to original. Like, where did this passion come from? I've read kind of your responses online that it's just basically a hobby, but take us through where it initiated, maybe in your childhood, and then to this point, the progression of that.
So as a kid, I always drew. I was always into sports and art, right? And then I love drawing, and then this kind of like married together to drawing sports related stuff, which ended up to me drawing stadiums. And I drew stadiums all the time, and like I got horrible grades in junior high because I wasn't paying attention to the lecture. I was drawing a stadium, and it's like, how'd you get a D on this test? Well, I was installing new bleachers into the south end zone, But it was just a huge hobby, and I still have a notebook with a couple hundred of the drawings. I probably did thousands of stadiums throughout junior high, even a little bit into high school. And then as you grow older, you kind of like, you fade away from stuff like that. And then fast forward to me being 28, 29 years old, I was married with two kids, and my wife goes to bed really early, almost 9 o'clock, and I stay up till midnight. So I had 3 hours every night. And I like to work out, but you can only work out so much, and you can't work out every day. So I'm really just really looking for a hobby. I was like mind-numbingly bored looking for a hobby. So I go back to that hobby I had when I was in junior high and started drawing stadiums again. And then eventually that morphed into let's see if I can build a little model. So I built two models out of cardboard, and then the third model happened. I'm a teacher, and I was walking by a recycling bin, and it was full of this red and blue construction paper. I was like, I'm going to use that to make a model. So I made a model of that. And then eventually I modeled a stadium that's here in Omaha that I grew up going to. And then I modeled my favorite college stadium. And then what really got it to take off social media wise and created this following was when I made that local Omaha baseball stadium. I was sending pictures to my best friend Rufus and say, hey, look what I'm doing. Check it out. Cool. So then I started doing it with Memorial Stadium, and Rufus was like, dude, you should start a Twitter account because people will think this is cool. And I'm like, I mean, I don't think so, but okay, whatever. Cool. Maybe a couple dozen people will follow this. So I started it and it just slowly snowballed. And that first stadium I built went pretty viral. And what really helped it take off, and like, not that the pandemic's a good thing at all, but I happened to post a finished Yankee Stadium the first week of lockdown when everybody's at home
Ah,
spending tons of time on their phone, and it was my most viral tweet I've ever posted, like somewhat close to 400,000 views, and
oh
it's just been
wow.
crazy since then. And that was the last stadium that I auctioned off, and then now every stadium reach out to me. They commission. They ask me, hey, how much for Madison Square Garden, and they go on a waiting list, and I have to do deposits and contracts, and it's turned into a nice business, and been able to put some money away and send my kids to a better preschool and everything. So it's crazy just from that one suggestion from Rufus to, dude, put this out there, like
Yep.
show people this. I'm just thinking, okay, cool. And it was nice just having people like it and like know that other people think what I'm doing is cool. And then that turned into a business. It's just there's been so many times doing this where it's like I never once would have thought that would lead to this.
Tell us a little bit. Right before we started recording, you were talking to me about the Seattle Stadium, and tell us a little bit about that. You kind of mentioned how tight of a deadline you had to pull that one off.
So and it goes into the I never thought it would have led to this. This is probably one of the most surreal moments that happened was the Seattle Seahawks reached out to me and wanted me to make Lumen Field for them, their football stadium. And I'm thinking that's cool enough, right? And they take me about 3 weeks to a month to make normally.
Oh, okay.
And they said we'd like you to do this. We want to post a tweet the day before our first playoff game, which is 8 days from now. So they're taking my normal timeline and shrinking it down to about a fourth of the time. And to be honest, I didn't know if I could do it or not. But I said, here we go, just let's give it a shot. And we signed a contract, and I worked New Year's Day. Then the 2 days after New Year's, I probably worked 16 to 20-hour days, just nonstop. My wife was awesome. Just she took the kids and let me focus on building the stadium, and then go back to work. And I'd come home from work all night, stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and I got it done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I ended up actually getting it done a day early, and the Seahawks were awesome to work with, and they produced an amazing video that showcased it, and it all turned out awesome, just great, and just like I keep saying, like every single time something like that happens, it's like an out of body experience. Like I did not think I'd be here talking to somebody from Canada, like here I am going international about this. Just again, this little side hobby that I was sending pictures to my buddy, like, hey, look what I'm doing, and here we are. I'm like to say I'm a Z-list celebrity, and I've got to do some pretty cool stuff because of it.
That's awesome. So with the Seattle stadium, um, because you had never, like, I would assume with Dodger Stadium, you were there. You said you were there. You kind of did a tour. So mentally, you kind of know the details and intricacies of that stadium. But obviously, in 8 days, you're not going to be able, and during a pandemic, you're not going to be able to fly out to Seattle. So uh, how much did that weigh into the stress of pulling this off?
So that's part of it is so when I have my whole list of my commissions, like there's a waiting list, and as I'm ending a project, I start thinking about my next project. So right now I'm winding down at the end of Madison Square Garden. So I'm thinking about Notre Dame Stadium, which is my next project. So I have like almost 2 weeks of I think about it. I get a little free time at work. I maybe look at some pictures here and there.
Right.
Whereas Seattle Stadium, I was literally before we even signed a contract, I was already drawing the field because I needed that extra time. So yeah, it was
Wow.
a time crunch. I wasn't able to pre-plan like I normally do, but they supplied me with some original artist renderings that made it way easier because they were actually more detailed than a lot of the stuff that I can find online. And then, like I said, just seeing on Google Maps, literally keeping that tab up, looking at every single image of that stadium that I could find to find every last detail. Because like I said earlier, I don't want somebody to be like, "Where's the door I go through for my season tickets? You didn't include that." So I made sure to hopefully, made knock on wood, made sure to include everything. And there's thousands of things in each stadium, and I'm sure I missed something, and somebody will let me know on the on social media.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So let's bring it home to hockey and MSG. Now, Madison Square Garden, the video that I do, it's the oldest arena in the National Hockey League. I've been there. I've had the fortune of being there a few times. It's one of my favorite. I think it's number two on my NHL rinks. It's a very unique building. There's a lot of history behind it. So tell me a little bit of what went into constructing MSG.
Yeah, so Madison Square Garden, obviously, I would say it's the most famous arena in the world. I think isn't that what it's called? I
That's
didn't
it's
make that up. That's the nickname. I thought
that's what they call it.
you were
Yeah,
gonna come with this brilliant idea
yeah, yeah. It's on the marquee, I think.
then I said it and I was like, I didn't think of that. No.
Yeah, yeah.
But with it being so popular, again, you get out to there's so many images online of it and the recent renovation that's out there. And the process for that was a little bit different because there's a roof on it. And I've done one dome before, but it was it was a open dome more than a Madison Square Garden kind of comes to it. So planning that out and coming out with that process and kind of realizing like the profiles all had to be different because Madison Square Garden is a circle, but the arena is an oval.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect, and then every profile of it all had to be different. So there was a lot of intricacies to it, but it's always the intricacies, the challenges that make it really fun. And then having it be my first basketball and hockey rink is also something that's really fun, kind of refreshing to as much as I love basketball and football, to get away from basketball and football for a little while and move on to different sports. So it's fast doing it. And then the other thing I added is I put LED lights in it, which is the first time I've done LED lights. The other time I did lights, they were like Christmas lights, but doing LED lights and figuring that out, I almost had a major snafu that measure cut once, cut twice. I measured 0 times and tried to cut something, uh, and for some voice in my head was like, "You should probably test this out." And I'm like, "Oh, that's common sense."
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
tested it out, and luckily I did because then I realized something wasn't working. I ended up working it out, but yeah,
Wow.
doing the LED lights was a fun little challenge, and I haven't posted online yet. I'll little spoiler here. I even did the exterior LED lights where
Oh,
they have
wow.
now the arena can the actual arena they can change the colors. Mine it glows blue on the outside, so I think
Wow.
that's gonna be. I think I'm posting that tomorrow, so it's gonna be pretty. I think people will like to see that. That'd be pretty cool.
That's awesome. When I saw the images of you testing the lights, I love the way you teased it. You're like, I wonder if this is gonna work. And then what really struck me, because what would you describe your scale? Because they're obviously not all probably the exact same scale across the board, but like generally speaking, like what do you think your scale is really? Any clue?
I'm not a good modelist because I never know that answer. I think I've had other people figure it out for me,
Yeah, there you go.
but I can't remember what it is. Because what my process always is every stadium has a different footprint, like how big it is. So then I shrink or grow that footprint so that it fits and it doesn't go over 15 inches. I've just found that's like the perfect distance or perfect size. So like Madison Square Garden is a perfect circle, so it's roughly 14 and a half, leaving a little extra room for some of the exterior stuff. But yeah, all the scale is different, and with Madison Square Garden being actually a pretty big footprint for an arena, it ended up with a pretty small basketball court and a hockey rink. But it's when you see it, it'll be pretty cool because it just seeing that the how small of a pin stroke is for the line was pretty fun and pretty exciting to do. And I had to do it 2 or 3 times because the white hockey rink is a lot easier to smudge on than a green baseball field or football field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you put on the lights, what struck me was so when I used to go with the team to MSG, when the team is there, like obviously the lights are on the hockey rink, but the house lights, they're not fully on. Like there's kind of I guess kind of concert lighting kind of thing. And when you had your LEDs shining down even on your model, that's what it reminded me of, was just that kind of low key, intimate lighting. And it just, for whatever reason, just struck me. I'm like, wow, that for being paper and being so small, it's still. I mean, it looked so real. It was really amazing. So.
Well, that goes back to like the little details that like there might only be 3 people that notice, maybe you, me, and like some other guy, but I don't want to miss it, you know. Like so, when I set up the LED lights, you can kind of point them. And I put a piece of paper underneath it to block it from going down into the seats. So it points at the where the rink is going to be, and then get a little bit of a glow to glow up the seats. So the focus of the light on the rink and the court, and there's a little bit of glow on the seat. Like I was saying, I didn't know if anybody would notice that, but I didn't want to miss it just in case somebody did, and here you are making sure that somebody noticed it. So
keeping it real.
It's a good thing I did it, you know?
Yeah, it was really well done, and I still haven't seen the actual finished product yet, and I already know it's amazing. So, well done. It's obviously in the hockey world, it's a rink that you don't want to mess up on because it's a shrine to sport in general, whether it's boxing, basketball, or hockey. It's a pretty important building in stadiums, so to speak. So before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about your experiences through rinks. Like, how many have you actually been to? Are you more of a baseball, football guy, hockey guy? Where are you at with sports, I guess?
So I am more of in Nebraska, it is football.
The Cornhuskers, right?
The Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Yeah.
No matter how bad we've been the last 5 years, I can't put my hand up high enough. And then baseball, you know.
Okay.
And then every other sport down here somewhere. So, and I kind of follow that line. I absolutely love football. I went to the University of Nebraska. Been a Husker fan my entire life. They were kind of like you're an Oilers fan. You grew up in the prime. Like, so Nebraska won when I was a kid. They won 3 national titles. They won 3 in 4 years. So it's like you get like this abuse, and now they've slowly fallen off. But like you've had that taste of that glory, and it just reels you in. And like this year, they only won 3 games. But but they like just keep like reeling you back in, you know. And so just circling back around, I'm a football guy, and I love football, but I also love baseball. And if you decide, I actually like baseball stadiums more, and it probably goes back into like baseball stadiums are more unique than football stadiums. But then and I'm not just trying to suck up. Number 3 is going to be hockey because Omaha is actually a pretty good hockey town. We have a junior league team that's really popular, and then there's a college team, and it's the other college I went to where I did my undergrad it's their marquee sport. Like it's a hockey school. That's the sport that pays the bills. They built an arena just for the hockey team, 8,000 seat arena.
Oh, nice.
So I'm definitely a huge hockey fan. I love. I wouldn't say I'm kind of a bandwagon NHL fan. I kind of bounce around from team to team. Just
That's fine.
team, I don't even know who I would say right now, but like for a little while, I loved watching the Vegas Knights because it was kind of that fun, like expansion team atmosphere. And yeah, so I love watching the NFL. I hone in, I watch every minute of the Stanley Cup. And then the biggest for me is always the Olympic ice hockey tournament.
Ah, nice.
You guys broke our hearts in Vancouver, but someday, in the streak. They've never won it in my lifetime. So,
all right, Trey. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. It sounds like you're a really busy guy now with all your stadiums. Thanks again for taking the time. I want to wish you luck. You're a teacher, and I've got kids in school, and through all this chaos, I got to wish you luck because, man, teachers, they're in a tough spot, but you guys are doing a great job. So, best of luck going forward, man.
thank you. I really appreciate it, and we'll figure it out. We'll get things back to normal eventually, and keep educating children and keep making stadiums.
Awesome. And once again, for those watching, make sure to head over to Twitter and Instagram at Paper Stadiums. Check out his stuff. It's amazing work. And hey, if you're watching from Montreal or Boston, get the Canadians and the Bruins to hit him up and commission a Paper Stadium. That would be, I want to see that.
I want to do it, so that'd be perfect. I won't let me build them unless I'm getting paid, so I need somebody to help me out there.
I hear that, man. All right. Well, thanks, Trey, again, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Awesome. And that wraps it up for this episode of Rinks Around the League.